I love this service. I get to come and just do one little part and sit and enjoy. I am the minister of this congregation, Reverend Tamara Casanova Suzuki, and it is my joy to share the call to worship with you this morning. It is written by one of my colleagues, Leslie Takahashi. They teach us to read in black and white. Truth is this, the rest is false. You are whole or broken. Who you love is acceptable or not. Life tells its truth in many hues, but we are taught to think in either or, to believe the teachings of Jesus or Buddha, to believe in human potential or a power beyond a single will. I am broken or I am powerful. But life embraces multiple truths, and life speaks of both and of and. We are taught to see in absolutes, good versus evil, male versus female, old versus young, gay versus straight. Let us instead see in fractions, the spectrum, the margins. Let us open our heart to the complexity of our world. Let us make out of our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is more gorgeous than the monochrome, that a river of identities can ebb and flow over the static, stubborn rocks in its course, that the margins hold the center.
Hi, everybody. Hi, how are y'all? Good. My name is Patrick Lyra. Some of you I recognize, and when I last saw you, my name was just Patrick, but I've changed it to be Patrick Lyra, a two-name first name. I'm going to tell you a little bit of something first, and then we're going to stand up and kind of do a little moving together. Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so today I'm going to be talking with all the grown-ups about a part of myself I just started to understand a little bit better. And that part is called my gender identity. Does anyone know what gender identity means? What do you think it means? Take a guess.
Boy or girl.
Boy or girl. Interesting, yeah. Boy or girl, that's part of it, yeah.
It's whether you feel, what gender you feel like.
What gender you feel like, yeah. So gender identity is how you feel deep inside of yourself about whether you're a boy or a girl or something different than a boy or a girl. And even though most of my life people called me a boy, the truth is I didn't feel like a boy inside of my heart and soul. And guess what else? This is a little tricky. I didn't see myself as a girl either. I just saw myself and see myself now as a person without any kind of gender at all. Is that a little confusing? Yeah. Not a boy, not a girl. It's not confusing? All right, well, we're done then. From the mouths of babes. So I want to really quickly, can everybody tell me their age? How old are you? 9. How about you?
7, almost 8.
7, almost 8. We'll round that up to 8. 4, almost 5. Go ahead.
5.5, almost 6.
Okay, how about you? 9, 8,
8.5.
8.
8.
9.
I'm gonna be 8 in October.
8 in October. 7 right now.
11 3/4.
Awesome. 11 3/4. How about this person? How old are you? How old are you?
Late October.
Stranger danger. Okay, cool. Well, so when I was your age, most folks thought that people could only be a boy or a girl. So when I went to school each morning, the teacher would say things to me like, into our class, like, "Good morning, boys and girls, I'm happy to see you." Only I didn't feel like a boy or a girl, remember? So how do you think that made me feel when the teacher was only talking to the boys or to the girls? Any hands down here? What do you think? And then, how did I feel when that happened?
Maybe ignored.
Maybe ignored. Yes, I did feel ignored. What else might I have felt?
Left out.
Left out? I did feel left out. You're right. I was confused. Absolutely. What do you think? How do you think I felt when the teacher said just boys and girls? Confused. I also felt sad. Did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to say that whenever my teacher does that, I'm like, no.
You say no when the teacher says good morning, boys and girls. I like that, a little resistance here, changing the culture. So I'm wondering if everybody down here can help me explore something that might help other kids like me feel better. So can you stand up? And let's put all the cushions in one pile right here. So everybody stand up, grab the cushions, move them over. Right there is good, just one pile. Good. All right. So let's all stand right here, and I want you to help me pretend something, okay? Pretend that the piano is a cave. It's dark, and it's cold, and it's a little bit lonely, okay? And over here, there's a little patch of sunlight, but we're gonna pretend that over here is a big patch of sunlight, the kind that dogs and cats and all kinds of animals like to curl up in and nap, and humans too, as well. So we're gonna pretend that, and I want you to help me sort of with this exercise. So I'm gonna ask you some questions. Now, so how did I feel when the teacher said, good morning, boys and girls? What did we say? Confused? Sad. So which way do you think my heart moved? Towards the cave or towards that? Okay, so step this way with me. Okay, stop. All right? So let me see what my next question is. So when the teacher said to me, all the boys line up over here and all the girls line up over here, which direction do you think my heart moved in? Towards the cave or towards that warm sunlight? Yes, your bodies are already moving. Good. Over this way. So when some of the boys in my class said, you can't sing and dance and play with the girls because you're a boy, how do you think I felt? Yeah, this way, right? Right, you guys are quick study. So basically, I really started to feel unsafe at school and a little bit at home. But then I got really lucky because I started to meet some new people. So I had a new teacher who said, good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm happy to see you. Everyone. How did that make me feel? This way, right? Towards that sunlight, right? When a teacher said, okay, let's have everyone who likes dogs line up over here and everyone who likes cats line up over here, how do you think that made me feel? Yeah. Very good. And when I had some friends who said, you can sing and dance and play with whoever you want because it's your choice, what direction do you think my heart moved in? Exactly. Until right now, my heart is literally over there in the sun, curled up, cozy, warm, and feeling really, really good. So as each year passed, I met more and more people who loved and welcomed me as a person who's not a boy and not a girl, and that made me feel great. And I hope that everywhere you go, you get welcomed in that kind of way, and I also hope you have a good time in your RE classes. So thank you.
Now I'll just read an excerpt from a poem by Marge Piercy. We seek not rest, but transformation. We are dancing through each other as doorways. We are ripples crossing and fusing, journeying and returning from the core of the apple, the eye of the mandala, the cave in the heart of the rose, the circle without boundaries, centered on silence. I'm 4 or 5, sitting in the back of the car, singing at the top of my lungs. Whitney Houston, probably, on the radio. Her voice always makes my soul a river rushing downstream, fast, clear, unstoppable. I look out the window at the bright green grass, expanding through the stern order of the veteran cemetery, then turn to look at my younger sister in the opposite seat. I notice her brown hair, like mine, her mischievous smile, also like mine, and I suddenly think, oh, I guess I'll be a sister next time around. By sister, I meant girl. Now, raised in a mixed Catholic and Presbyterian family, the notion of a next time around is certainly not something I've been taught about. No one has mentioned an afterlife aside from a static, gated country club called heaven. But in that moment in the car, I feel that I've been a sister in many other lifetimes. I know there are many other lifetimes I had and will have. It's hard to explain, but at age 4, my little kid muscles remember things. Without any kind of discomfort, I recall how it feels to not have a penis, to have an internal space with which to host a new, squishy little life. My abdomen remembers stretching like my mom's, and my chest remembers expanding to nourish another as my mother nourished my baby sister. My hips remember being much wider, and sometimes I actually stumble because my center of gravity is thrown off by how narrow my hips are in this boy body. I glancingly remember something like childbirth as through a prism of some kind. When the women in my family openly discuss their experiences in this area, albeit non-specifically with repression, we are WASPs after all, no one notices how I wince, how I can't find words to explain the intense shifting in my abdomen I know comes from releasing a child into the world. My body knows many things I can't explain, and yet here I am, 4 years old, boy-bodied, and as our young friends said, confused. As I dip into the emotional experience of this exact moment in the car, I'm aware of how deeply sad I feel not to have what at this time I think of as a girl body. This is mainly because I know I will be a mother someday, and I'm not sure how to make that happen with a boy body. Indeed, some part of me breaks off and sinks into darkness when I realize that truly, I will never be physically pregnant. But then the next feeling follows. I still love my body in many ways, immensely. I just hate how everyone calls it a boy body, expecting me to walk, talk, breathe, eat, sit, fart, sleep, drive, dance, throw, think, act, and insert verb like a boy. Thankfully, though, at the wise old age of 4, I know that none of this is my body's fault. I know the truth. The world is mapping onto my body some kind of puppetry that I have not consented to. I cling to my truth with all the stubborn clarity of a preschooler, pulling my limbs down as the strings of socialization tug upward. My body is not a boy body. It's a me body, a Patrick body, and now as an adult, a Patrick Lyra body. But like Orphan Annie, I'm trapped in a world that's a gendered orphanage, split violently down the middle, boys over here, girls over there, and me horribly uncomfortable on either side. In this child's moment, the solution is to live in my daydreams, where all I need is a scrappy dog with a gender-neutral name, an orchestra to back me, and an audience who understands. My body is my soul, and my soul is so much more than gender. Now, because gender identity often forms so young in many of our lives, I'm convinced that a key part of transitioning, whether socially, medically, and or otherwise, involves recovering and honoring the wisdom of our child self. This is no small task, though, for those of us whose inner child has jammed itself into the far recesses of our being, where the tiniest modicum of safety could be had in a world that targets nearly everyone as not being boy or girl enough. Indeed, most of my life's work up till now has been to coax my child self back out into the light, to assure them that I am not like the other adults, actually. My love strives to be unconditional, filtered of the false spiritual bypass of my family of origin. With the help of chosen family, many of whom I found here at Live Oak, good somatic psychotherapy, a partner who loves to laugh, and a slew of preschool students from my former life as a teacher, I thought I had successfully completed this work of recovery and healing. I thought I had embraced my whole queer self. But still, there were edges, places of discomfort that I couldn't look at directly. From those edges, my child self whispered, "Remember how you felt when your parents didn't seem to care at all about gender and simply followed your passions with you into song, into My Little Ponies, into the strawberry patch just across that tiny blue bridge over the creek." My child self continues, "Remember what happened when they had your sister and you were suddenly the boy and she was suddenly the girl. And the only way people could see you was as a carbon copy of your introverted, emotionally veiled father, who you loved, but who reflected little of your extroverted self, whose heart was not just on the sleeve, but extending to a 5-foot radius around you." I do remember these things. Most of all, I remember them in my body. When my parents care for me from a place of gender neutrality, I breathe deeply, chubbily, fluidly. I feel totally grounded at 3 years old, my feet extending roots into the earth as I wear my Batman sunglasses, pick daisies, and figure out that looking straight into the sun is not a painless thing even if you have sunglasses on. At this age, I trust and love my whole self, with no conditions placed upon my gender identity, expression, body, and soul. I do not see myself as a boy or a girl. I see myself as a Patrick, a singer, a child, a dancer. And then, to my absolute delight, my baby sister is born. And in contrast to my expansive happiness over her presence, my world begins to shrink under commonplace but extraordinarily painful gender policing. As she grows from a chubby infant with thick black hair into a toddler, my parents and extended family begin comparing us in strict, binary gendered terms. Again, I am the boy, she is the girl. There's never a moment where I'm allowed to forget that. And this is when I first lose my breath. It shortens, curling up in my chest, cutting off the roots my feet extended into the earth. The binary comparisons are constant to the point of absurdity. Suddenly everyone genders, and I use that as a verb, nearly everything. Inanimate objects, colors, animals, and people. At family gatherings, when my uncles ask me detailed questions about sports, I don't know how to express my anger at their assumptions that I don't understand athletics or that I even care. No one asks my sister these questions or my female cousins. No one asks me for help in the kitchen, where all the women are, and where I am happiest. To be of use, learning my grandmother's cooking strategies and odd little passive-aggressive witticisms, some of which I carry forward today. When I think of my uncle's questions, my heart pumps so fast it seems to make my whole bed shake at night. My world is suddenly an earthquake, and it's all because I am forced to be a boy. Most immediately, that means the toys I play with are suddenly regulated. I'm too old for My Little Ponies and Rainbow Bright. I'm too old for animals and dress up. Now, I just have the boring, metallic right angles of cars and the kind of dark color palettes that really I can only describe as suicidal. Because I am afraid of the gender police, in fact, I deliberately mute the selection of markers I choose to draw with. My pictures take on the drab monotony of dirty, melted snow. Which isn't to say I want the neon pink fever dream of Barbie either. So much plastic, Aryan materialism leaves little room for the world I imagine, where Skipper, the only doll not walking up on her toes, flees flat and barefooted through a forest with a sword, diving into a river to avoid the gender-policing men and women who want to force her into marriage, into princesshood, into that brightly painted living death. The problem is that there are just two choices, and they both feel so extreme. I mean, talk about fundamentalism. Because I struggle with these two sides of the gender binary at too young an age, I feel depressed in my solitude. And in relationship to others, I feel consumed with anxiety, my breath near panting as I improvise the scripted part of boy in order to earn the barest minimum love and attention from others. After years of this performance, my brain learns the truth. You are no longer safe here with these people who need to see you as a boy. Then, my brain learns a remixed and much slimier belief. Being with them is safer than being alone, out there in the dark. Over time, I felt myself pulled backward into darkness, into the kind of bottomless pit I sometimes dreamt about in a recurring fashion, falling into it, my limbs flailing endlessly as I screamed for my parents to catch me. And what of my poor parents? Doing what they thought was right, doing what had been done to them. I see in their eyes the terror they'd endured when transgressing gender norms themselves. I hear what they were told. It comes out of their own mouths sometimes. Remember, boys don't sit like that. Girls don't speak up and complain. Girls must learn helplessness. Boys must learn domination and control. All of this is why men can't dance, can't move their hips sensually side to side, or many men anyway, unless they're drunk. I mean, it's funny, right? But it's also heartbreaking. Sensuous circles are not masculine enough. This kind of socialized terror is why some women cook for others even though every muscle in their arm wants to throw the hot frying pan through the kitchen window. Prioritizing yourself first, instead of putting everyone else always first, is just not feminine enough. Over time, many of us learn that expressing ourselves in pre-approved binary gender norms gains us attention and what we might call love. Part of this learning is the awareness that to openly, messily, deliciously transgress gender norms is to risk losing said love and attention. Because of this, the act of transgression seems a death wish, instead of what it actually might be, an expression of identity as important and authentic as breath. At age 12, though, I don't know any of that yet. And when puberty hits me, life becomes trauma, although not in the way it might for some transgender people who feel their bodies are binding them in the wrong gender, burying them alive. I'm okay with my body to a certain extent, but what fascinates me most are the endless comparisons to my father. These comments, "You are your father's son. You look just like him. You two could be twins," seem to me so wholly misplaced as to be a deliberate campaign of misinformation, designed to hide the incredible similarities I had and have with my mother, with my sister, and with all of the women in my family. What is this magic calculus that takes my father and I, factors in our similarly shaped genitals to produce similar personality traits, interests, sexual orientation, etc.? Using this calculus seems as silly to me as reading the bumps on a person's head for comments on their stock portfolio. Why did the fact of my penis mean I have to go with my father into single-sex spaces to be alone with other boys and men who can tell I'm not ordinary by my movement alone? After all, I never learned successfully how to move like the Tin Man. I couldn't consent to all that rust. Because my body is my soul is a dancer, and dancing is so much more than gender. My body is my soul is so much more than gender. In April 2015, this refrain increasingly echoes in my mind. My child self begins to stomp its feet, throw ribbons in the air, and put its hands on its hip while lovingly glaring at me. It's not whispering anymore. My body is my soul, and my soul is much more than gender, it shouts. And I do my best to listen, especially because I now have taken a job overseeing LGBTQ programming at Pacific Pride Foundation, including leadership of the LGBTQIA Proud Youth Group. These youth are incredible, they are clear, and they take no one's shit. Something about their attitude pulls my child self forward more clearly, gives it a confidence it lacked before. And yes, you heard me right, I actually get paid to support a weekly giggle fest where the most amazingly creative LGBTQIA teens show up, speak or gesture their truths, holler for social justice beyond their own constellations of privilege, and leave me feeling incredible hope for the future as well as delightfully inept in my understanding of the rich tapestries of sexuality and gender that exist in the world. I get paid to open my heart to them, which inevitably means their voices enter my heart. And this is how they speak to my child self, calling forward the realization I have always known and have always been afraid to say. I am neither a boy or a girl. I am simply myself, or as the youth taught me, I am agender, without gender. When they first described this term, air rushes out of me. I feel a wall of water rush forward into my eyes, where I carefully hold it, focusing my energy on the youth group and not on my intense realization. But after the meeting ends, I get into my car and I weep. There's a word for me, agender. There is so much more to me than gender. And through the water falling, I hear my child self demand with all of its strength of spirit, fueled by these youth's own brilliance, you want to be seen by others as you see yourself. Say this, share this, demand this now. So here I am. Before, I thought being transgender meant feeling trapped within your body and wanting to change that body to another sex or a different form in order to feel at home. Now I know that transgender does include that experience, but it also includes many more. Transgender embraces a host of identities between and off the gender binary, whether gender queer, gender neutral, bigender, agender, and more. If you or your office needs training on that, you can call me Pacific Pride Foundation. I can tell you what all those words mean. Like everything in life, gender exists on a rich spectrum, interacting with other elements of identity, expressing uniquely in each person like a fingerprint, like an innate talent. What an exhalation this is for me. What a joyful shouting into the sky. I am not a boy. I am not a girl. I am only myself. I can ask to be seen as Patrick Lyra and ask others to stop themselves when they sort me into a category that is male or masculine or boy, because that's not my home. That is not where I belong. Knowing myself allows me to demand that I be sorted into my own space, a space of safe gender neutrality, where my primary care, be it sexual, romantic, medical, mental, spiritual, is delivered in a language that welcomes all souls who are beautiful off the binary, who might also be dancing with memory of past lives, or who are often struggling to see themselves not simply because mainstream society refuses to, but because we have, a kind of moving beauty. We are thunderstorms and rivers. We are kelp shifting with the tide. We are not the same one day to the next, and we know it, and we own it, and there are not always words to describe it because words themselves are not the truth. The truth is a world that, I believe, is only beautiful insofar as we see it off the binary, labeled, uncharted, in between, and speechless. Realizing I am without gender has allowed me to open to myself, unfettered, and to see the world through eyes keen on loving and not on labeling people like butterflies, euthanized and pinned in a box. Being agender is not for me an absence or a loss. It is the wide and spacious room I need to breathe and to be human. May we all secure this space that we need and listen closely to the young ones in our lives demanding it so fervently. May we do the work needed to see all people as they see themselves. May this be so now and always. Please join hands and remain standing for our closing words. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it, whatever its shape, its journey, its step in transition. Blessed is your heart, that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift you will receive by going. Blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. Blessed are you.
And now, as we extinguish the light of our communal chalice, our service truly begins. And the congregation responds with words that are not up there. We carry the light of our chalice into the world. Please join in.